This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. I'm Matt Fanslow, and I've got an episode to dedicate to Anne Capriota. For our quote, "Where is the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing? They have passed like rain on the mountains, like wind in the meadow. The days have gone down in the west, behind the hills, into shadow. How did it come to this?" That and more after a word from our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training. So, are you looking for the right training provider that offers cutting-edge courses to hone your automotive skills? Well, let NAPA Autotech take you to the next level. Go to napaautotech.com for more details about classes near you. So if you don't know, that's a quote from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, by a character named Theoden, or King Théoden, King of Rohan. And dedicating this episode to Anne Capriota, Carm's wife, Tracy's mom, because rumor has it, she is a big Lord of the Rings fan. And I don't know if I'm that big of a fan, but I have appreciation for the movies. I just find this character, King Théoden, a perfect example and, oh man, just a wonderful reference for us as leaders, maybe particularly shop owners, but I think anybody in a leadership position could learn a lot from watching King Théoden. So to start out, I'll try to do this chronologically as best I can. That when we meet King Théoden, we find him sitting on his throne in his kingdom of Rohan. And he's approached by, really, we're just going to almost refer to them as the heroes. They are part of the fellowship after the fellowship kind of splintered a little bit from the first movie, The Fellowship of the Ring. So I'm going to try to walk this line. I fear that it's rough for you listeners that haven't seen any of these movies, and for those of you that have seen those movies, because I feel like I have to cover certain things to build up this idea and where I want to head with this. So we meet King Théoden sitting on his throne next to a very pale advisor named Grima Wormtongue. And King Théoden looks like the Winter Warlock from that old stop motion claymation Christmas movie, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The one narrated and voiced by Mickey Rooney. That, if you remember the Winter Warlock, the King Théoden bears a striking resemblance with the long hair and just looks very, very old and decrepit, but like he could just perform some magic, even though he's just welcomed a wizard with his staff into his throne room. It turns out Theoden has been, for lack of a better word, possessed by Sauron. Sauron is a white wizard, or was supposed to be, and he's supposed to be a good guy. He's supposed to be there to help really Middle Earth men, if you will, against the forces of evil. In this case, that force of evil was and is known as Sauron. And I know we're going to have a few names here that they kind of seem like little derivatives of one another. He's in the shape he is in because he trusted these advisors. He trusted Grima, who turns out to be working for Saruman. Saruman, who is supposed to be looking out for the best interest of those of Middle Earth, which is basically, we'll just say this continent, known as Middle Earth. And these wizards were sent there to help lead or guide, better yet, advise people how to protect themselves and squash out this evil Sauron. And because of that, he became, or ended up, possessed. All right, the chances of one of us, or our shop owners or bosses, those of you that are shop owners, actually becoming possessed is really, 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 really low, right? But it's not really a stretch to make a bad decision or accidentally make a bad decision on trusting the wrong people, believing the wrong advisors. I'm not talking about service advisors, people that are advising you, whatever that may be, friends, family, colleagues. You find out they do not have your best interest in mind. They do not have your business's best interest in mind. And that's a hard lesson that often takes too long to learn. And there's a lot of damage from it. And that's what we see with Theoden under the influence of Sauron and Grima. Grima whispering in his ear, Sauron technically possessing him. And our heroes, namely Gandalf, who has been reborn from the end of Fellowship of the Ring, if you will, or very beginning of the Two Towers, where he's Gandalf the Grey, and then the wizards are kind of ranked by color, if you will, with whites supposedly being the top, the most powerful, and the leader. Gandalf has been reborn as technically Sauron, but we would just call him, and in the movies and stuff, they call him Gandalf the White. And through whatever events, if you will, Gandalf purges Sauron from Theoden. And we watch Theoden go through a terrific de-aging process. Literally the cataracts in his eyes repaired. So probably a lot of you would see that and be jealous. And some of us someday will be jealous when we have ours. That, yeah, terrific de-aging. Not that he's a young man by any means, but still. Skin clears up really well, better than Clearasil. And he's angry, of course, hurt emotionally, mentally, that he runs Grima out of the kingdom. Grima scurries back to Sauron. It's important because the nature of all of this is Theoden is a really, really good example of leading in fear. And who's to blame him? Because now he's fearful of trusting others. Like, he doesn't trust others. He doesn't trust himself to choose who to trust anymore. Yeah, and of course, it's easy for us to see our heroes there. They're trustworthy. King Théoden, so obvious, but why would it be? And we see that. We see the distrust, and not just distrust of them, distrust of himself. I don't trust that I can make good decisions on who to trust. And it's important because in the story, there's a threat looming. The growing evil in the east, that is where Sauron is in the east, and he's gaining power. We don't have to go into a bunch of details as to why, but they're in the east. The power's building, and he's picking up allies, and of course, one of them being Sauron, a very, very powerful wizard. Sauron has been charged with creating this army, and he creates a huge army, and its purpose is to wipe out men, humans, if you will, but men, the men of Middle Earth, and take it back over for Sauron. And Rohan is a target, a big target. And now with this looming, and I'm skipping over some other details with Theoden, but I don't think they play well into where this needs to go. His new advisors, his new friends and allies, and I don't know that he necessarily views them as friends and doesn't necessarily view them as allies and certainly doesn't trust them, feel like he needs to meet this threat head on at the kingdom of Rohan. And that fear is causing Theoden to want to fall back on really history, stuff that's worked in the past, comfort. Really, that's what it's about. Comfort. He wants to make the easy decision, not the hard one, not the hard decision that probably is the best long-term decision, but has some requirements to work. And that being, he needs to reach out for help through these old alliances that he doesn't believe exist anymore. NAPA Autotech training sessions are being conducted day and night in a town near you. This training caters to every level within your organization, be it a mechanical assistant, a mechanical specialist, a technology specialist, or a driver safety calibration specialist. Imagine a one-stop shop training partner in NAPA Autotech that will lead your team to a path to greatness. Autotech's entry-level Build-A-Tech classes convert the untapped potential of your new hires into money-making mechanical specialists. Autotech's higher-level tech update classes introduce specialists to the world of ever-changing technologies, which prevents your shop from getting technologically stagnant. Remember, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And, turning to the front of the store, the Autotech Service Advisor class is an awesome way to hone your client advocate skill set, ultimately benefiting the customer through an improved vehicle repair experience. But it doesn't stop there. Imagine an electric vehicle class that takes your specialist well past the mundane, yet necessary safety topics. Well, it's here. Autotech's EV Ready training is a week-long curriculum that takes participants through a hands-on experience involving hybrids and electric vehicles. The session kicks off with the use of PPE and proper tooling while touching on required OSHA regulations. Then, the students dive into the lab vehicles to gain knowledge of the common high-voltage components on EV and hybrid vehicles and their function. Attendees will be taken on a path exposing them to different electric vehicle manufacturers to compare component form and location. Additionally, information about Level 1 and Level 2 charging systems will be included, along with a quick look at DC to DC charging. The operation and maintenance of subsystems are explored, including the different modes of Tesla operations, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Commit to taking your business to the next level with NAPA Autotech training. Maybe for you as a leader, you as a shop owner, those old allegiances were with other shops. Friendly competition, your competitors. Maybe you used to hang out. Maybe you used to go to breakfast. Maybe you used to meet for lunch. Maybe you used to pop in and say hi. Maybe they used to pop in and say hi. You'd lend tools to each other back and forth. Talk to each other about whatever issues. But you haven't done that in a while. In a long, long while. And you kind of just under the belief that that alliance is gone. And you can't reach out for help. And maybe it's other friends, family, whatnot, that you just don't believe you can reach out. Maybe an old coach, business coach, or a trainer, instructor that you've gone to some business classes. And just because you haven't spoken in a long time, or the last time you did, it wasn't very positive, you feel that those alliances are gone. That relationship is kaput. That you can't reach out, that you are in this alone. The business is struggling. You put your trust in the wrong people and now the business is in trouble. But it's up to you to figure it out. You alone. You alone, the leader, have to come up with the right way to weather the storm, to see another day, see and fight another day and win. And that's what we see King Théoden do. What is it going to take to weather the storm? And that means we're heading to something called Helm's Deep. And Helm's Deep is, if you haven't seen the movies, is a fortress set into the mountain, or mountains, and set into a mountain with gigantic walls, virtually impenetrable. I say virtually because we'll probably guess what will happen. But that being said, in the past, that is where Rohan would go to weather storms. They would outlast those that would attack them. That they could last through sieges, they could take on and deflect virtually any attack. That is where they went to survive. And that's where he's going. That's where he's taking his people. And it's not an easy trip, but in his mind, a necessary one. And they have losses on the way, but they get there and they're preparing. They're preparing for this monster of an enemy, this army of Uruk-hai, which I don't know how, we don't need a lot of details in that, but they're manufactured for the purposes of wiping out the realm of men. And they're coming for Rohan. And of course, they're going to figure out they're at Helm's Deep, and that's where they're heading with overwhelming numbers. And again, the new advisors, if you will, even though I don't know if we could say Theoden looks at them as trusted advisors, keep asking him, begging him to reach out for help, call for aid. And he won't do it. The alliances are dead. Again, how many times do we see this? How many shop owners do you know behave similarly? What do we got to do to weather this storm? Slash prices, tons and tons of lost leaders, or maybe just completely unwilling to change and keep doing what got us here. Well, what does that mean? Got us here in trouble or got us here with whatever success used to have? We got to weather the storm. And that's what we're seeing with Theoden in this situation. And because of his alliances that he has with our heroes, some help shows up in the form of elves. And elves, I don't want you to be thinking like Keebler elves, the short ones that work for Santa Claus or work in a tree making crackers and cookies. These are more the elegant, lithe, immortal elves, magical, tall, thin, that they show up in numbers. I mean, not nearly enough, but quite a few to honor the old alliances. And they're there because two of the heroes, we'll call them, two of the heroes. If it matters, Aragorn and Legolas. Legolas is a elf from the woodland realm, and Aragorn, without going overboard in details, grew up with the elves. He has a lineage that gives him some advantages and is regarded as the actual true king, not overseeing everyone. So the true king of Middle-earth, if you will. So they show up to help, I think much to the surprise of Theoden. And finally, the battle ensues, and that doesn't matter so much. It's just that we have an example of there is help. And in this case, it kind of, with the help arriving because of what alliances you do have, maybe these alliances aren't just friends and they're not colleagues and they're anything. What if it's an employee? What if you're getting help because of an employee's relationship with, who knows what, other technicians, other business owners? What if it's their relationships? What if it's the service advisor's relationship with some outside salespeople? And it's those alliances that are now there to help you, to help the business, not because of you, because of them. I mean, just think about that. And surrounding yourself with quality people that also have their own alliances that help you, help the business. And I think we all should buy into the idea that, hopefully, if the business does good, everybody does good. If the business is doing better, everybody working for the business is doing better, right? That's kind of how it works. Because, you won't have to worry if you have a bunch of your colleagues or employees pulling strings and their alliances are what are helping out your business. That's probably unsustainable. They won't stay employees for long. They'll take their talents to South Beach. No, they'll take their talents somewhere else that may value it better, make better use of it. So, but I think it's a good example of these alliances show up to help the Theoden and his kingdom, not because of him, but because of the people he has there helping him. And I do think that that's makes a really good comparison to people in the business. And of course, they should be trying to help the business if they're working there. That's kind of part of the gig. I like how that is. Another, we're going to stick around Helm's Deep just a little bit longer. The belief is Helm's Deep is impenetrable. So the reason I say that is, as a leader, you've gone to the safe place. You've taken this and made the safe decisions. Minimize risk. You feel safe. The walls of Helm's Deep will protect you. And then you found out there's chinks in that armor. There's chinks in that wall. Weaknesses you didn't know existed that were leveraged against you, were taken advantage of. And all of a sudden, you weren't nearly as safe as you thought you were. In all actuality, not safe at all. Things just got way worse. Is it a direct repercussion of making the safe decision? No. It could be, but not necessarily. But I think maybe an overconfidence in the safety of that decision. And again, I hate to reinforce it, but the misplacing trust, losing awareness, just trusting that this is the safe decision and then resting on your laurels. And then it blows up. In the movie, quite literally. In the real world, figuratively, blows up. And in the movie, again, as everything looks to be doomed, the advisors, our heroes, of course, the friends, or I guess for me, in that situation, I guess I'd like to make comparison to the employees, are the ones to help rally a last stand. And they ride out into that army to go down swinging, to draw swords together and go down swinging. If this is the end, boy, it's going to be such an end. And that's what they do in the movie. And this is what can happen in your business, that those in it can also be the ones to help rally everybody to help save it. And in the movie, that's what happens. And not only do they ride out, and really all they're doing is buying time, because one of our other heroes, Gandalf, has now went and recruited a lot more help. And they come in and save the day, drive the Uruk-hai away and to their doom. But now we're left with another decision for Rohan, and not the kingdom of Rohan, and specifically for Theoden. He's dodged a bullet. It could have been the end. And if it's a business, it could have been the end. It could have been to close up the doors. And they are depleted. They are weak. They're beat up. They're tired. But the war isn't over. And the war's bigger than just their specific kingdom. It's the realm. And now aid is being asked of them. And it's almost like, I just got my stuff together. Now you need my help? Where were you when I needed help? You didn't ask for help, by the way, but where were you when I needed help? I didn't see you anywhere, but now somebody is calling for help. And we start to see the evolution of King Théoden, the growing as a leader, and that he answers the call for aid. He answers it. We're going. We're going to pack up what we got, and we're going to ride to go help. We're going to do what we can. Like, we just muddled our way through our crap. We just muddled our way through all our problems, and we didn't come out smelling like a rose, but we're going to go on, right? We potentially have a future. Now, granted, in the movie, the threat will wipe out everybody. That's not necessarily realistic for our business scenario here. But I think it's important that we are out to help each other. Competition can drive us to do better. It's not zero-sum games. I know I've talked about this, that the zero-sum game philosophy doesn't fly. It doesn't work. It's a bad long-term plan. And there's examples of this in the real world. It doesn't help. Competition helps drive everyone to be better. And that's how we can help each other, push each other to be better. But in this case, what we get to see is Theoden lead people to ride to what's known as Gondor, the White City, and, if you will, the capital of Middle-earth. They are now the next big target, with the Sauron's armies right there. Like, they're located behind a great big gate, the Black Gate even. And it's not too far for them to go to be right there on Gondor's doorstep and take that down. And if they take down Gondor, it's just going to be like dominoes. And Rohan rides to get there. This spills over into, or I guess we already are into, the third movie, Return of the King. Return of the King in reference to Aragorn. But I guess I have to bring it up because it might be one of the best motivational speeches you've ever heard in your life. I don't know if I have to decide if I put it above Rocky. You know, Rocky's got that speech about nothing hitting harder than life. It's really good. Theoden has one as they're gearing up to charge the armies attacking Gondor. And I'm going to put it above Rocky because I have seen that freaking movie and I've seen that scene maybe 100 times. And I kid you not, every time I watch it, every time I see Theoden riding, yelling, "Arise, arise, riders of Theoden." The hair on the back of my neck stands up every time. Go on YouTube. If you've never seen Lord of the Rings, just go on YouTube and just, I think, search Theoden speech and it'll be there. It's riveting. Honestly, to kind of wrap everything up, we see them ride and succeed, and then kind of another wave of Sauron's army hits, and we see the death of Theoden. I know that's probably just a big spoiler alert. I just spoiled it for you. Sorry. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry. It's only like 20 years old now. That he says something that it's really interesting, and I think it means a lot, is that he says, "My body's broken," as his niece is holding him and he's dying. She doesn't want him to die, of course. He says something to the tune of, he goes to the halls of his fathers, whose presence he no longer feels he doesn't deserve. Like, you know what? It's something to the tune of that he's now acted in such a way of honor, really led, really stepped up as a leader, that he no longer really fears going to the next world, if you will, or whatever's next, or the halls of his fathers, right? The Valhalla, something of that nature, heaven. He feels like he now deserves to be there. And I think my interpretation of that, to relate that to our worlds, is when you kind of do things the right way, even if they don't necessarily work out right, but you do things the right way, there's contentment. You're kind of okay with it. Falco and I were talking about poker, and you went all in on Big Slick, Ace King suited, and flopped 2 cards of the same suit, or flop Queen Jack of the same suit, and you push all in, or you flop top pair. You're getting it all in with a really, really good hand, with only very, very few things that can beat you. It sucks to get beat, but you have to be okay with that. I made the right move. I did the right thing. Statistically, logically, went with my gut, and it didn't work out, but I'm okay with it. In this case, it worked out in that they successfully defended Gondor. Didn't work out in that he lost his life. I just think that when you're doing things the right way, and in this case, leading, and truly leading, not leading by fear, leading with integrity and vision. I think that's really important. Leading with vision, doing what's best for the shop, not just because it's just this monster that needs to be fed, but because its success will determine not only your success, but now everyone else's. And because the business is succeeding, you can do better for your employees. You can do better for yourself and your family and your clients. It's all good. And with that contentment, you can sit amongst your peers, sit amongst others that you respect, go to that breakfast table at that cafe with other community leaders, community forefathers, whoever, however you want to, stalwarts, whatever you want to qualify them as, people you look up to, people that command respect, and you can sit at that table and feel like you belong. And there's something to that that's very real. And that's, I think, not something to avoid striving for. Place at the table. So, Anne, I hope you got a kick out of that. I hope that was somewhat worthy of your fandom. And then also, all you guys listening, I hope you got a kick out of that. I hope you saw where I was going with that. If you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, I hope you're somewhat interested in checking it out. It's not a waste of time. They're terrific movies. They're long. You have to pay attention or watch them a few times. But there is a lot going on, and just layers upon layers of themes and ideas, and just so much we can take away. So much we can take away. Character archetypes galore. Yeah, if you have seen them, I hope you got a kick out of how it really does relate to what we do. If you like episodes like this, please let me know. If you don't like episodes like this, please let me know. You can email me at mattfanslowpodcast@gmail.com. You can give me some feedback. I'd love to hear about it. Other topics you'd like to hear about. If you want to be a guest, please hit me up. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, give it a like and subscribe so you can get alerts when the next episode comes out. And yeah, really thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training, and thank you to the Aftermarket Radio Network for giving me this microphone. So until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Matt Fanslow, diagnosing the aftermarket A to Z on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Matt on your favorite listening app. He's very interested in what you have to say. Let him know what you'd like him to cover and come on the show. Matt is all for advancing the aftermarket. Find Matt Fanslow on social media and connect or on aftermarketradionetwork.com.